Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode number 12 of the Intrinsic podcast. I'm your host, Dave Morgan. You can catch me at Spiral Talks. My co-host may or may not show up, not sure. But it's going to be a wonderful show today. Questions to the ego. So this concept, well, I guess we'll start with the idea of ego. My concept of what I perceive the ego to be is your internalized outer reflection. So it's like the you that you try to be to intrigue others or to, I guess, influence others in a way, which in itself isn't necessarily a bad thing if the qualities that you are trying to utilize or replicate are of something that is your natural proclivity, your core abilities, your core feelings, your senses. And there generally does tend to come up, not just myself, I think the general realm of the populace kind of has that same kind of construct on what we consider ego to be. It's somewhat of a limiter. It limits you from reaching your full potential because you're trying to achieve a version of you that is trying to be perceived by others in a certain way, as opposed to being perceived by what you truly feel. Like, the trickiness that comes with that. It adds, I guess, or it follows through in a realm of our growth. So it's like, I've heard the term before, to kill your ego, to do this, to do that, and I guess I've kind of rationalized it down to calming your ego. Because it's like, you shouldn't lose your ego. Because if you lose your ego, I guess you rid yourself of any desire. Which, to a degree, I guess if you're like a monk, like it's worldly desires or perspectives. But it's like any desire theoretically would be gone if you had no ego, because you wouldn't want to produce anything for any type of feedback, like even towards yourself, right? Because it's like you have to have enough ego to want to accomplish a goal for the sake of yourself. You want to do this for yourself, which is in itself another variation of ego. But I guess in that degree, it would be seen as a more pure function, a more pure function of self-growth or individual existence. To the individual, you would be trying to expand yourself to the best abilities, or expand yourself to your greatest capacity for whatever it is that you're capable of doing. The concept that I kind of went with in the idea of questioning your ego. Like I've kind of been running this, or I guess it's not so much theory, I guess it's more of an experiment where it's like, so you have thoughts on a particular topic or concept or something that's going on in your life, or a memory of something that was before. say you're looking back and you're like, oh man, what did they think of me there? Or how could I have reacted? Or how did this individual take this thing? And the experiment I've been running is just asking myself questions. Literally, it's like, what do these thoughts get me? Where do these thoughts lead? Ask my mind, and then just kind of let it process a direction, or process like, okay, think about this. So I guess we'll use that example, the first example. What did they think of me in that situation? So it's like, okay, what is it that I did? Was there anything in what I did that was not myself? If I was being myself to its truest form in my actions and like communication or thoughts, how are they reacting to it? Now, what are their reactions, right? So it's like, why? So if I was being the most myself, now I'm looking at it, okay, so I was being the most myself. Is the most myself a positive or negative experience or individual to a situation? Now it just comes down to perspective, right? Because it's like, me being the most myself may be too energetic, or too talkative, or too quiet, or to this or to that, to another individual. And their perspective is how they're going to perceive that situation. And it's like, by being sure in what your actions are, you can kind of, that's what I'm saying, like calming your ego would be asking yourself that, reaching that state of like, okay, well, who am I? Okay, I know who I am. I understand who I am and how I act and how I move and react in situations. Okay, cool. Now, a reference point off of them. How are they perceiving me? Okay, cool. Now, are their perceptions justified? Are their perceptions of me justified versus, so is what I'm doing or how I existing, or how my existence is affecting them in a negative way? Okay, cool. Now, it's a little bit of a trick, I guess, to kind of perceive that, because it takes a bit of like a deep analysis, because obviously most of these situations are going to be from like reflections relatively, or it could be in the same moment in the present time space, but it's still a reflection to an instance that you're now thinking about this. And the idea is like, okay, well, how do they perceive it? Okay, cool. Now you have the options of, they are perpetuating their own version of perceptions because there's a situation going on with them. That could be the case. There's another case where you're disrupting their energy. So wherever their energy is where their imbalance is. If you are able to kind of catch it in that moment, I guess you can actually have a conversation with the individual and kind of like bring up and be like, hey, like, is my energy too much? Like, there is a realm of being able to balance yourself out. Because, like, again, like, in that concept of calming your ego, it's being aware, trying to be aware of your own actions and yourself. Being aware of yourself and then, like, the environment that you're in. Because then again, there's also times where it's like, maybe that environment ain't the environment for you. There's an adjustment then. It's like, maybe this energy or these energies are not the particular energies that work for me. So then in those cases too, that also helps you isolate what you actually want in your life from other people. How you want, or the types of people you kind of want to have in your space as you are progressing through your life. Because that's, I guess, the general idea. It's like, the more you grow, the more you start finding out the things that are you, and the more you start doing the things that are you. If the environment you are in is opposing to the things that are you, then you're going to slowly start to gravitate away from those realms. Just one sec, sorry. Ooh. Sorry. It's the annoying part. My long legs. My long ass knees. Bang the thing. I had to turn my fan off because it's a little chilly. Just a wee bit. Thank you. Yeah, so that perspective is that you would now want to analyze your own environment. How well does the environment you exist in suit you? So, like, if you're going to a place or meeting people or whatever, do the energy of these people suit the energy that you have? Now, I'd say at a realm of calming your ego, you can kind of change energies of certain circumstances, because it's like relative energy control, situational balance. You're able to kind of modify a situation. You can kind of change the energy to a different stream where it's more calming, it's more fun. You can enjoy the experience in a more conducive way for both you and the other individuals. Like, that is a possibility. Not saying that it's the one that's going to work. That would be the most optimal, and that's relatively if you're at least at a level of like synchronicity with like the other individuals in any given situation or circumstance. So it's like, if I'm around you, why you gotta be on the heater, little fuzzball? Come here. Clap for camera time. Yeah. Look at the camera, big old fuzzball. But yes, so it's your ability to kind of alter a situation. It's not always going to necessarily be viable for one to be able to make any changes, because again, other people's energies are other people's energies. You can alter them slightly, but never directly change another individual, because other people are themselves. They themselves are themselves. So you yourself are yourself. You can't change another being. So the general idea is that with that calming, you give yourself, I guess, the better optimal options in any given situation. You give yourself a better read or role in any situation, because you can now make it enjoyable for yourself, because that's the whole idea, right? Because it's like nothing should, in theory, be able to upset you other than what you let upset you, which is that same concept of ego, right? Because as you calm it, as you calm your ego, as you grow, you will start to learn like what bothers you, and like as time progresses, I feel less things will begin to bother you, because you'll you'll think and feel beyond those situations or those moments where you're like, I have experienced more, I can experience more, or this is outside of the scope of what I enjoy feeling, that I will continue to enjoy feeling. It's just like, what is being ridiculed in any way? What is being made fun of, right? Like any of those types of things, or those energies that are being cast upon you are being cast upon you. It is not you. Therefore, you can cast your own energy of yourself, which will now alter your situation. Because like that's the thing. It's like if you're in a situation where you're being ridiculed, generally speaking, you have the capacity to change your environment. You have the ability to change who you're around, who you talk to, what situations you deal with. You can alter all of that if it's no longer conducive to your growth. And with the expansion of your mind, with the expansion of your capacity, you allow an extended reach of yourself. You can start seeing your potential spread closer to the things that you actually desire, your truths, the things that are of you. You start to become more prevalent, more aware, alert in your eye, in your existence. But that's the same idea. It's like you have to want to expand your perception to that point. And like the good portions and the good variations in terms of that concept of like asking yourself an ego, it's like, what do I want? What do you truly want, right? Like what is it that you truly want? Like for myself, like I have my goals and aspirations. I want to be an inventor. I want to make things. I want to experience the great expansion and growth of like our minds, the depth level of like where things are, understanding like existence more as we progress through time and as we learn more about ourselves and gain better technology. It's like we're getting to a realm where our perceptions of these things are starting to expand. We're being able to we are closely connected to lost information that is allowing us to reconnect with ourselves in a way that was once viable and much more easier done in like past historical references. I would presume like thousands of years ago with like less light pollution, people are connected with the stars more, the moon, there's energies more, so like there's a different sense of like understanding back then that they had. Times are tough because Earth is a tricky place. You got volcanoes, pitfalls, mudslides, drought, famine, all kinds of stuff that happens. But as our technology has grown, those issues are pretty much kind of like nulled off. So now it's like rolling back. But in the I guess looking at it from like a social level, right, is that what drives a lot of people to reach where they are, it takes a certain realm of ego. But that's generally belief in self. The people that I've seen who actually thrive on a goal, and that goal is like their passion, that's ego being used properly. They've calmed their ego for the things that don't matter, and then they've utilized their ego in the sense where it does, where they want their most growth, the most expansion, their passions, their desires, their true desires and true passions. Because people can be passionate about a lot of things, but it's like we all know the difference between like I'm passionate about playing the trombone or the dark passions, I guess, but like then there's like something that will draw them in, and you have a moment where you're just like, that's the thing that you're gonna do. Like for me, like I will throughout a day, I'll just be working or somewhere, or I hear something, think of an idea, and then boom, I'm writing it down, I'm drawing it out. I can see the image in my mind. So this is like a moment of me in that time space of I can do all of this and create all of these things now. Oh, okay, this is cool. Or well, at least the fundamental starting parts of creating it, because it's like it's all on paper. The work and aspiration is to acquire my lab and pretty much be able to build some of the things that I've actually aspired to do, because I don't have a great workspace to do such a thing in. That's my current realm of it, and it's not necessarily outside of the realm. Like theoretically, I guess I could just build certain things, but it's like it's also a realm of dedicated workspace, and there's also a realm of like I know what my capacities are in terms of certain things. So it's like I know where I need assistance in other things, and with assistance, then it's like certain realm of like having a team, or it's finding people who fit into those spaces. And like, of course, it's like the more you work on the things that are the most you, the more you start attracting, or you start attracting them to you, and you start gravitating towards the things that are going to perpetuate that most you type of energy. I think the trick is like you got to really ask yourself those questions though within those moments of like, especially in a situation too where like if you feel that kind of calm, it's like depending on the energy that's being pushed at you via others' egos or your own ego giving you like a feedback reflection of others, your perspectives analysis can go down to, is this really what I want? Is this type of situation really what I want? If it is what I want, then go for it. If it isn't, okay, then that's where you end up with like that multi question. It's like, okay, well, if it isn't, do I have the capacity to shape the situation where it's more conducive? If yes, then do that. If no, then that means that's something that is not a world that is of your energy. It's a bit tricky, but that's the idea. It's like we can ask each other questions and ideals. And granted, yes, people's insight can be very helpful. It can help and expand, but that's the idea. It still comes down to the individual on how they utilize any insight or advice from any other person or any other situation. So you have to look at it in that degree of, what did I see? Or what was it that they told me? Okay. No. Is what they told me something that is conducive to my being? Because granted, there are realms of growth that are required in certain situations. Because it's like, okay, so sometimes, yeah, it's constructive criticism. Because that's like, if you yourself are avoiding your own faults, so things that you are stopping yourself from doing, your own loss in capacity. It's like constructive criticism works and helps, especially if it comes from, well, generally if it comes from somebody that you have an admiration for in some degree, where it's like, because like you don't want somebody like say like, I guess say you're doing a math question, you don't want somebody who's like, not to say that they wouldn't have the capacity to, but it's just like this person is like, they are more on the English side, say, or like the language side, linguistics, as opposed to the mathematics side. And like they come to tell you how to work on a problem, but they're not really giving you general, like it could be done. And sometimes, yes, that advice may actually work because it's outside of the field view. But generally people do tend to say things because they want to, there is heart in what they're saying, where they're like, they want to do what they can to try and assist you with your problem, but they're not capable of, so they give you whatever they can. And those situations, if it's not condescending, you can still kind of give like the respect. At least I personally would give the respect to the individual in the sense that you are trying to assist me. Although your assistance isn't necessarily helpful per se, it's the effort that was put in. Like that's something, and that too is a thing too, where it's like on that other person, it's like, that's a mixture of read too, because it's like on you as that other person, say you're giving that advice. If you had a calmness of ego, I think your response back to a person would be like, I don't really know enough about the topic or the subject to really be able to give any information. Or you say, I only really know this, but here's what I kind of think of in regards to your situation. Like that, I could like if I've heard people say that. So like in those situations, like there's a lot more humbling and respect in that type of degree where you're like, wow, like you took the time to even consider that your input may not be relevant to the topic at hand, and like to see something like that is at least on my end, it's me acknowledging that somebody has control, or not so much to say control, they've calmed their ego to a state where there's a humbleness. And then the other side is like, you have another individual who's telling you how to do stuff when they have no idea. Like, enough people have known enough people who have been like, to tell you how to do something when they have no idea what it is that you're doing. So like in those situations, it's like, those ones are the ones where that's where you calm your own ego in regards to that, where taking the perception, like there is something gained from that, maybe not in regards to whatever your topic is, but it's something gained in an understanding of yourself and an understanding of that other individual. As I kind of go through this, it's like as you calm your ego, a humbleness is birthed. Would that be it? As you calm your ego, a humbleness is birthed from within. Birthed from within. So by that I mean it's like pretty much in that example, it's like if you're calming your ego, you are realizing where your influences are on others based on your reflection to others, or what you reflect yourself to be to others. But I think as you aim to become the most yourself and more the most yourself, you start attaining more of a humbleness in that sense that as you are the most yourself, you won't, or rather you will learn that every individual or every being exists in its own body, mind, spirit complex, and there isn't all too much we can do on the outside to really alter that. And by reaching that state of a humbleness, we're able to acquire better direction for the self, like where you want to go, what you foresee, what you enjoy in a situation, how you enjoy situations. You don't want to get caught lingering your own being within the realms of what others perceive you as or are trying to perceive for you. Because another person's perception of you should not be you unless it is that they are perceiving you as you are your most, and they're giving you an analysis of how you also perceive yourself to be. That's the time where I could say that it's a feasible thing. And like that's how I feel that as we grow as a culture, as a species, as beings, as we gain that better still humbleness within ourselves and we begin to calm our egos, we all are going to gain a much closer humbleness to each other, and by which I mean we will start perceiving the most of each other for who each of us are. So it's like if I'm looking at another person I can relatively understand what's going on with them because I've humbled myself to them and they've humbled themselves to me in a realm where we're now trying to understand each other. We've given each other enough of ourselves to each other in a loving, respect, and humbled way where we want to learn more, we want to perceive more, and feeling that by doing such, we're able to grow more together. Because now if it's not just 1+1, it can also just be exponential 1+1 because your connection you have with another individual or another situation is so it's so enhanced, increased, better essentially. But yeah, like the ego is tricky. Like even myself, like I've had my entire life's perspective of trying to perceive ego. And to me, ego perception has been like I am existing, or at least there were points in my life where I was trying to exist for what I wanted others to see me as opposed to how I saw myself. And I think in doing such, I was lowering the efficiency of who I was and like, what is a Dave, essentially? Like, I was reducing what a Dave was to other people by. Oh, can't lose that. I don't want to lose that. Uh-oh. I may have lost it. Dun dun dun. Oh no. It's my little earring piece. It's my little fidget piece. But losing pieces of who the real me was to essences of life. And I think even in that same degree, like self-doubt would still be within that same degree of like, that's a lowered ego status because it's like if I'm doing something that is something that I love and I find that is something that I want to do, that's how I want to perceive, that's what is something that I enjoy and it's my truth, something like my passion, like my true passion, and I'm doing that. Or no, rather, it would be that I'm not doing that. Or even slightly doing that, but I'm seeing other people's reactions to what it is that I want to do. And so I'm like, oh, to them, this may not seem like something of value, but that's their perceptions. That's somebody else perceiving what is valuable to me, which to myself and many others, it's a tricky thing to kind of work with. But I think the general idea is like, do you feel that whatever it is that you're doing is your true passion? If it's not, then maybe to a degree they are right. Maybe it's not so much how they're going about doing things or what it is exactly that they are doing, but their realm of telling you that maybe the thing that you're doing might not be your true passion. That might be that little influx that gives you a little bit of a boost where you're like, okay, you know what? Okay, I feel that. All right. And then you kind of start gravitating yourself a little bit more towards the thing that actually is your passion. And then you're from there able to expand your growth. And I think at that point too, when you actually have that, because like that would be your ego stronghold where it's like, no, this is me. This is something that is me. You can have ego at maximum for that, where it's like, if this is your true passion, and like, granted, like, because passion can be a blanket term, because like, some people could be passionate at, But then again, I was gonna say some people can be passionate at certain things that may be deemed irreverable on a social scale, but like I guess even to that degree, it's like the social scale itself is a tricky concept because it's like, yeah, there are certain things, but the social scale itself is an evolving kind of scale. Like as time progresses, the scale changes and modifies itself for whatever timeline or zone or what the general consensus feel of things tends out to be. And then everything kind of just gravitates this way. And all the other thoughts that were from the past or a certain way kind of just discredited. If there are certain specific good ones, they end up coming back. And they come back with like a little bit more of a stronghold. Like that's the way I kind of look at like spiritualism now. Because like spiritualism was a very big thing back in predecessor eras, I guess, to our current civilization, and past 100 years, like I'd say from the 60s is when things just kind of started going a little bit more. We're going back to the spiritual understanding of things, and like as I was growing up too, before like technology reached this stage, because like I grew up in the 90s. We didn't have I didn't get a computer until like 2000, 2001, 2002 maybe. I remember I built it. My brother gave me no. My brother gave me one and it was kind of a crap computer. And I built one from parts that my brother gave me. But it's like the internet wasn't even really it wasn't even a thing back then. There wasn't enough information on it to actually give it any validity. So like you weren't able to kind of take in any information. So it was just going as word of mouth. And so that was the general consensus back then, where it's like spiritualism, craziness. Reincarnation? What are you, crazy? Da, 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 da. Like, there's a whole bunch of different directions. Then as time progressed, we have like Paranormal Activities, the movie. Then we have all these paranormal study groups and people who are actually looking into like different realms of the spirit world to give a little bit more of an explanation. And it's like, okay, now the expansion of the consensus is starting to change now. The rift is starting to be like, hey, spirit world, whoa, spirit world. And like, as time has gotten on, like where we are now, where it's like a lot of information, we're like, hey, whoa, we can scroll back information wise now to thousands of years ago. There's information on things 10,000s of years ago. Like the pyramids apparently like 50 grand plus. I don't even know exactly. Like they're probably super old from like a next level civilization. I would say 30,000 to 50,000. 30,000, like that would be like my rough estimate. Probably possibly even more. But like 30,000 to 50,000 years, and it's like that information was like unheard of. It was unheard of, and if you ever try to even bring that type of information to anybody, craziness, like everything just expands and explodes. So you're just like, oh my god, what am I supposed to do with this? So you can't really do much about that information, right? So, but where we are now in this world, in our current modern world, like the amount of spiritualism, especially that's the thing too. When you see people in high success, that's one of the big things. Like a lot of them are like one of the biggest terms that I hear a lot of. What are you up to, Bubba? It's on top of the couch. Manifestation, manifesting a situation, having an ideal, and I think that's again within that same realm of ego. It's that good portion of like the ego that is something that is of you. Because like you won't really manifest anything that isn't really necessary for your path. Because like you can manifest bad things if you're going down a bad path. If you're going down a path of like self-destruction, then you're going to manifest some bullcrap for yourself, because that's kind of all you're really thinking about is like, yo, bullcrap. But then you're going to get bullcrap. Like, you have like, because I think it's still like an energy flip of like, you can get like, you can have bullcrap thoughts, but then there's like a thing that happens and you can flip that around, boom. And then situation completely changes. And I think it's the same function works in reverse. So say it's like you have a really good situation going on and boom, bad situation. And you're not necessarily manifesting it. It's just a random outward events that have a capacity of affecting you. And I'd say in like a positive growth phase, that's a universal expansion moment, because it's like, I guess it's like your energy or your situation is trying to reach another tier level, and as it's trying to reach another tier level, it now has a new challenge to occur. Because say you're doing really good, then boom, you have a situation. Okay, you can either fail yourself in that situation and just be okay, well, whatever, or you can progress in some type of way. So either it be change your outlook on how you were going about a situation, upgrade to a this, change that, keep going the same way if that was a particular thing, go the same way, but like change something up so that it's like da 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 da. And by doing things within that degree, that's that perspective where you now manifest your path using your ego direction, because it's like, this is what I think, this is what I feel, this is what I want. Boom. So these are the things that I want. And this is how I want it to be. So you start now channeling, changing it, and creating these realms. And these realms start to create new paths for you, or a better path, more expansive paths. But I think the general idea on all of that, it still comes down to your energy, how you feel about yourself, which is where that self-ego within a certain degree. Because it's like, you gotta love yourself. And if you love yourself, then that in itself is ego, because it's like you are giving an energy or a drive or a desire to a thing. It's like a drive to a thing that is now going to be perceived as others by a certain thing. But the stronger your ego in terms of your loving for yourself, the stronger you are perceived to others in that same realm, and like your ego of you can be perceived as very good depending on what direction or what energies you are yourself trying to perpetuate. Because we also have examples of people who are egotistical, using that term, like, I guess I would say that that's like a negative connotation of the term use of ego. Someone who's egotistical, it's like they're doing everything, or everything that they do in their path is for themselves, and they are not looking at things in a way where it's for the expansion of others. Because it's like, by me loving myself, I would want the energy of me loving myself to pass on to others to get into that same type of feeling of loving themselves. They themselves are seeing me love myself, and they can make them feel better about themselves in some way, form, or significance. Like, as you've seen it before, it's like a person who could crack a joke at themselves. Like an honest but good and funny joke about themselves. Like, not crazy self-deprecating humor, but it's like they can like crack an honest joke. Where like, see, for me, I'd be like, man, I got a gap in my teeth. But I like it. See, like when I was younger, it used to bother me. It used to upset me, and I'm like, oh my god, my teeth. Da, 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 da. I don't like it. Da, 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 da. Like, people look weird to people. Da, da, da. Now I'm like, it's me. I love it. Yeah, I could go to a dentist. I can get it changed. I can get it spaced in. Da, da, da. But this is my smile. It's a good smile. I like it. I've loved it. I've learned to love it. Plus, I've also made a little modification too. So I go like this. But there's still my gap. But it's like, that's me. This is a part of me. This is my mouth. This is my face. I embrace it. I enjoy it. Like, I like the direction of who I am. Because it's all based on like happiness. Your ego can work well for you in guiding your path. And you can trace it to your own happiness. How happy can you keep yourself? How happy do you keep yourself? And then again, like, that's another question you can ask your ego in a situation where you're feeling upset. It's like, I want to be happier. How do I become happier? What would make me happier? Truly happy, genuinely happy. And sometimes it's like the most simplistic thing, like go sit by a lake, listen to nature, listen to a song you love. Things like that. And it helps balance you, and it calms your ego against the things that aren't of you. Where you're like, should I do this? Should I be doing that? Should I be working this job? Should I be going to this place? Da, 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 da. Like, these are affects of things that you're perceiving that other people may be pushing onto you, which may or may not be what works for you. You got to find your own path, and that comes down to respecting yourself, respecting your own energies, and like enjoying your being as much as you enjoy others. Because I enjoy people. I love people. I love people. If people don't enjoy me, that's on you. I'll keep being me. And if you don't want to be around me, I'll just go be me somewhere else. That's the general idea. That's the general gist of things. And I don't feel any type of way about it. That's the whole thing. It's like, with that same concept of that ego humbleness, it's like, you kind of reach a state where it's like, there isn't really much anyone can say to you in a negative connotation that really affects you all that much. Because it's like, if it's non-constructive, then it's like, it's in a vindictive manner. Someone's trying to say something because it's either something they don't have, or they don't like this, or they blah, blah, blah. So there's a multitude of different ways or reasons why. But it's like, when you notice someone or something is affected in that, or they are trying to affect your circumstances in that way, if you have a calmness in your ego and a humbleness to your soul, you limit the strain that they could put on you for you to put on yourself. You would literally just be like, that isn't me. That doesn't work. Like, what you're saying right now doesn't really mean anything. That isn't me. Like, anyone can call me any kind of whatevers, any kind of words, any kind of anything. And it's like, if I'm sitting here like, that's not me, I know for a fact that that's not me. Because I know me. I know me, and I've been putting in a lot of effort and time in knowing me. That's not me. That's what you want to think of me, and that's your choice. I allow you to have your, like, not to even say, I respect that you have your own freedom and your own opinion to be able to choose, because that's the big build of it all. If we were all exactly the same, if we didn't have different opinions, different concepts, different creativity points, then everything would just be the same. But we're all creative in our own ways. We're all individual. We're all individual, part of the same thing. And I think as we progress too, as a species in this society, we're slowly getting, I say we were slowly getting to, I think it's quickening now. I'd say we're not too far off from like a really good point of like expansive growth, because like if you remove certain aspects from yourself, versus others' opinions and perceptions of you that you know to not be truly you, then you are able to, one, enjoy yourself the most, enjoy life, because that's the whole thing, right? Like, none of us know how long we're going to be here for, or at least have any recollection of how long we may or may not be here for. Reincarnation theories. But none of us, well, I don't look at it there. I 100% believe it to be true, and some of the information I've read, I believe that to be 100% true. But it's like, none of us in this current state right now, at least in this current, like, space, well, not to say none of us. There's definitely a few people. Like, I guess I have some recollections from my other past memories. Some people have probably good clairvoyant sight. Like, I could say I've probably clairvoyantly seen some realms into my own future from, like, my youth to kind of now. I kind of saw some of the things. And it's, like, while you're being the most you, nothing can really influence it because you're trying to enjoy life in a way that only you're able to enjoy, because like only you can enjoy your life. But at the same time, one of the true core values of life is also enjoying life with others, because we need each other. We have all been around each other. We can't not be around each other. Just like the earth can't exist around the sun, just like the sun can't exist around the supercluster. Like, all of these things are in place because they are. And it's about how everything enjoys it. Because like, think of it this way: if the sun didn't like its life, it just stops being a sun. Like, it has the freedom to do that, but at least in a scale concept, at least like from us to like as humans to like the sun, which I would say that thing is probably, if we can really talk to it, the sun's probably a hyper intellectual energy being that we have no ability to really comprehend at this point now. Well, I wouldn't say no. We probably do comprehend. We comprehend it. We just can't. We haven't been able to translate it. We haven't been able to translate it in a way where we can perceive it. Other than we all know what the sun feels like on our skin, and that's how the sun's communicating with us. That's its most basic form of communication. Warmth. That's how it all started. Is the warmth. The gases created more gases. Earth was like, oh, warmth, and then like all the other planets. Some of them maybe are just drifters, but like that's the relative perspective. It's like, oh, and then like I look at that as like intelligent energy. Like the embodiment of those gases happen to just start to gravitate together. Kind of like how we were born, right? Like sperm, egg, and then it's just like all that energy started just like adding more. It's like, whoa, where is it pulling it from? Where is it getting it from? Intelligent energy. There was some kind of intelligent system that existed that's like, yo, this is the core products of life. It's already there. It's already preset. It's evolutionary growth, exponential evolutionary growth outwards forever. And by learning to tap into the depths of ourselves, not necessarily the depths, but tap into the, how would I go about such a word? To tap into, let's go into British accent now. To tap into our truest beings, our truest being of self. So all the things that we perceive ourselves to be the most, and actually follow through with those desires and dreams and goals. When you, I'm not normal British. When you reach that absolution, that continuum of your being, you hope expand not just yourself but other things around you, because you're going to gravitate towards the things that are more closely related to you, and you can expand other things. Like, think about it this way: Bill Gates or Steve Jobs, they created their systems. Those are systems that we each use today. I've got a desktop computer built off the Microsoft system. Others have iPhones, Apple computers, MacBooks. That was their dream, their desire that took their ego to make. But that ideal created something that we use to this day, something that's helpful to our growth, helpful to our ability to enjoy life and actually fluctuate. And it's helped add to other people's creativity. Because think about how much music, how much expansive knowledge we've been able to receive. Because look at it this way. Because of computers, we have better music. Well, not so much better music, but we have more music, more creativity, more artwork. more expansive things. We have the ability to communicate with each other. People are programming things. There's a lot more growth that is obtained from it. But it all started off with someone's ego. But they had their ego calmed and focused on their passions. So I think that's the idea. Summarize all of this, be like, one of the true questions you ask your ego is, what is my passion? Where are my passions? And I think from there, that's where you kind of get like a good start of what is that you want, and you can kind of isolate the ideal image, and then from there you can start honing in on it. And meditating on those things too, I feel is a definite bonus, a definite plus to kind of expanding the energies. So yeah, thanks again everybody for watching. This was another lovely episode of the Intrinsic podcast. Once again, the episode was Questions to the Ego. We'll be back here next week, 9 p.m. every Wednesday, 9 p.m. on your lovely Instagram live. Still in that same concept. Oh, jump to YouTube. Maybe. Might just jump to YouTube next week. I'll see kind of what's a better system too. I'll kind of look into using YouTube and whatnot. And going via my phone. Because I guess I could pretty much do the same general thing. But yes, thanks everybody for watching. I love all your support. Love everything. There wasn't really anyone in the comments today, so it was just like it was a chill kind of monologue. I'm liking these two. It's kind of therapeutic. But yeah, feel free to comment, show some love, support, hit some likes, shoot me some comments. If you guys want to hear anything for even next week, things like that, DM me at Spiral Talks. I'll read all mail. Pretty much generally, like, I don't have a spam of mail, so hop on in, and thanks again for watching. As I always say, put a positive spin on a negative spiral and have yourselves a wonderful week. Take care.